I was a duck run cowboy, you might say, because I had a little horse from the time I was, well, my first horse was a mule. And then my dad bought me a little ex-sulky racer.
Millions admired Roy Rogers as America's beloved cowboy, a Hollywood legend whose name became synonymous with courage, integrity, and family values. But behind that larger-than-life image was a deeply personal chapter that remained hidden from most of the public. Nearly 3 decades after his death, one of his daughters finally confirmed a truth that reshaped the story of his life. What she revealed exposed a side of Roy Rogers that even many lifelong fans never knew existed. The cowboy who became an American icon. Long before his name became inseparable from the American West, Roy Rogers was simply Leonard Franklin Sly, born on November 5, 1911, in Cincinnati, Ohio. His childhood was far from glamorous, and nothing about his early years suggested he would one day become one of Hollywood's most recognizable faces. Like many families during difficult economic times, he learned the value of hard work at an early age. After moving to California during the Great Depression, Rogers found work as a migrant fruit picker in the San Joaquin Valley. When the day's labor ended, he often reached for his guitar, entertaining fellow workers around evening campfires. Those simple performances revealed something that would shape the rest of his life. Music had the power to lift people's spirits, even during their hardest moments, and it gave him a path toward a future he had never imagined. His talent soon led to the formation of the Pioneer Trio, later renamed the Sons of the Pioneers. Their signature song, Tumbling Tumbleweeds, caught Hollywood's attention and opened doors that once seemed impossible. When Republic Pictures signed him in 1937, the studio also gave him a new identity. Leonard Sly became Roy Rogers, a name inspired by the beloved American humorist Will Rogers. It proved to be a decision that changed entertainment history. Success followed at an extraordinary pace. Beginning in 1943, Roy Rogers was recognized by Motion Picture Herald as the top money-making Western star for 12 consecutive years. Alongside his trusted horse Trigger, his loyal dog Bullet, and his famous Jeep Nellie Bell, he created a world that captivated millions of moviegoers and television viewers. During the 1940s alone, Roy and Dale Evans appeared in 88 films that reached audiences across America, turning them into 2 of the era's most admired entertainers. His influence stretched well beyond the silver screen. Roy became the only person inducted twice into the Country Music Hall of Fame, first as a member of the Sons of the Pioneers in 1980, and later as a solo artist in 1988. His television series, which aired from 1951 through 1957, further cemented his place in American culture, while Happy Trails, written by Dale Evans, remained one of the country's most recognizable songs for generations. As remarkable as his career was, Roy's greatest partnership wasn't built only in front of cameras. Dale Evans became far more than a co-star, sharing his faith, his success, and eventually the joys and heartbreaks that defined their family life. Together, they appeared to have everything anyone could hope for. But behind the smiles and the Hollywood spotlight, a deeply personal chapter was quietly unfolding, one that would change their lives in ways no audience could have imagined. The secret behind Roy Rogers' biggest decision. Although Roy Rogers and Dale Evans were admired for the lives they built together, the greatest turning point in their family came far from movie sets or television cameras. It began in 1950 with the birth of their only biological child together, a daughter they named Robin Elizabeth Rogers. Robin entered the world with Down syndrome, at a time when families raising children with developmental disabilities faced overwhelming misunderstanding and prejudice. Medical professionals commonly urge parents to place these children in institutions, believing they should be kept away from public life. Roy and Dale refused to follow that advice. Instead of hiding their daughter, they embraced her completely. They insisted Robin appear in family photographs, even when studio executives feared the public would react negatively. Their decision quietly challenged the attitudes of the era, demonstrating that their daughter's life deserved the same love, dignity, and visibility as any other child. It was a remarkable stand, especially at the height of their fame. Robin's life ended far too soon. In August 1952, only weeks before her second birthday, she died from complications of mumps. Roy and Dale were heartbroken, yet they chose to honor her memory instead of surrendering to grief. The next year, Dale published Angel Unaware, written from Robin's imagined voice in heaven. The best-selling book comforted countless families of children with disabilities, encouraged greater understanding, and inspired the renaming of the Dale Rogers Training Center in her honor. Yet Robin's legacy extended even further than anyone realized. Across the Atlantic, a young girl named Marion Mimi Rogers was growing up in Scotland during World War II. Much of her childhood was spent in an orphanage, where stability and family were things she could only dream about. Then, in 1954, everything changed when Roy and Dale adopted the 13-year-old and welcomed her into their home. Years later, Mimi reflected on that extraordinary change. Despite being raised by two of America's biggest stars, she remembered very little about the fame. Inside their home, Roy and Dale were simply mom and dad. More importantly, Mimi revealed something that connected her own story to Robin's in a way few people had ever understood. She believed Robin's passing inspired Roy and Dale to open their hearts to children who needed a family, giving her a future she otherwise may never have had. Mimi wasn't the only child they welcomed. Roy and Dale went on to adopt several more children, creating a large, multiracial family that reflected their compassion rather than convention. But even after opening their home to so many, the trials they faced as parents were far from over. The heartbreak that had already reshaped their lives would return again, testing their faith and resilience in ways almost impossible to imagine. What Roy Rogers' daughter finally confirmed. Welcoming more children into their home brought Roy Rogers and Dale Evans renewed purpose, but it did not spare them from further heartbreak. The family they had built through love and compassion would soon endure more unimaginable loss. In 1964, tragedy struck when their adopted daughter Debbie, just 12 years old, was killed in a bus accident. Only a year later, another devastating blow followed. Their adopted son Sandy, who was serving in the army in Germany, died at 18 after a night of heavy drinking. Within little more than a decade, Roy and Dale had buried 3 children, Robin, Debbie, and Sandy. Despite unimaginable heartbreak, Roy and Dale found strength in their Christian faith. Instead of retreating from the world, Dale wrote about grief, hope, and healing, bringing comfort to grieving families. Behind their cheerful public image were parents quietly carrying a sorrow that most fans never knew existed. Roy's remarkable career eventually came to an end on July 6, 1998, when he died at the age of 86 from congestive heart failure. Dale remained devoted to preserving both his memory and the values they had shared before passing away in 2001. Tributes poured in from across the country, including public condolences from President Clinton, while generations of fans remembered the cowboy who had taught them lessons about honesty, courage, and kindness. As time passed, however, much of the family's private story quietly faded from public view. Although Roy's son Dusty helped preserve their legacy through the Roy Rogers Dale Evans Museum in Branson, Missouri, the deeply personal reasons behind many of the family's life-changing decisions remained known only to those closest to them. That finally began to change when Mimi chose to speak openly about her own journey. Looking back on her adoption, Mimi explained that she believed Robin's short life had forever altered the direction of Roy and Dale's family. In her view, the heartbreaking loss of their young daughter inspired them to open their hearts to children who desperately needed love, giving her an opportunity she never would have experienced otherwise. She wasn't sharing a family secret for attention or recognition. She simply wanted the world to understand the people behind the famous names. That single confirmation transformed the way many viewed Roy Rogers. His greatest legacy was never limited to blockbuster westerns, television fame, or the white hat that made him an American icon. It was found in the compassion he showed when life tested him the most. Instead of allowing heartbreak to close his heart, he and Dale chose to make room for others, creating a family built not only by blood, but by love. Decades after Roy Rogers' passing, that may be the most powerful story ever told about the man America thought it already knew. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this story, please subscribe for more untold stories behind legendary lives. Share your thoughts in the comments, and we'll see you in the next video.